Okay, let's talk about the 1980s real quick. All the 1980s really proved is American media isn't set up for Americans, period. Because as soon as cable came across and people were able to start affording it and affording channels where you could show nudity, swear, and basically do whatever you wanted as long as it didn't break the laws, they started flocking to it in droves. And that's the case. HBO, Cinemax, all that. They were going to that. They were not watching the stuff that was on ABC, NBC, all these channels anymore, especially the late night programming. You know what was going down in viewership at that time? All those late night talk shows and stuff like that. You know why? Because there was nudity over on the other channels. Because there was swearing over on the other channels. Because there was better storytelling on the other channels. There was stuff actually made for adults. And America is not big on that. It never has been. It's never going to be the way that it's set up now. It's trying to be puritanian. It always has been. This isn't a political thing. Just every country's a little bit different. This is how it is in the country I live in. All right. So that's just the case. You want to be squeaky clean so that you can get sponsors. So those companies can pay for your stuff, and ultimately those companies say what you can put on. And that's really what it is. If they don't like what you're doing, they aren't going to sponsor you. If they aren't going to sponsor you, you don't have money for the show because nobody's buying stuff for the shows. The companies, this is how American media works as far as TV, right? So American TV, especially back in the up until, well, it still works this way, but now with streaming, you know what it is. And streaming has a lot of ads too. This is how it breaks down. A show, especially if it's the only one on that network at that time, and that's all they offer, has to meet the guidelines of the sponsors. If it doesn't meet the guidelines of the sponsors don't want to back it. If the sponsors don't want to back it, the company doesn't make any money. If the company doesn't make any money, that show doesn't get produced. Period. Right? So, what we were being fed in the 80s, 90s, all that, and still today on the major networks that I don't think anybody really pays attention to anymore, for the most part, is stuff that the companies were okay with. And I don't cover stuff beforehand as far as nostalgia goes, but I'm just going to bring this up as an example. Remember, back in the day, the black and white TV shows were sponsored by cigarette brands. So that's just fact. Go back, check, look, the radio programs, all that. This is the way that it breaks down. So when you get something that is paid for by the consumer, like, hey, I'm going to pay for this service, the commercials go away, and what you actually get to watch and the companies make is stuff to keep you around. So the way that American public broadcasting is set up is not for people. It's for companies and the show products. That is all there is to it. That's how it was in the 80s. And the 80s, having cable come around, changed that and showed that exactly for what it is. And people are wondering, well, why don't people like this, that, or the other thing anymore? Why isn't there TGIF like there was in the 90s? Because nobody cares about TGIF anymore. Nobody's sitting around the TV with their family to watch this boring, bland bullshit that doesn't cover anything, that doesn't talk about any real issues, that doesn't really do anything besides try to numb you and get you to go buy toilet paper. So, yeah, the 80s were great. The 80s were great. We had this, we had that. We had Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles were just there to sell you Ninja Turtle toys. Masters of the Universe was there just to sell you toys and, like, sheets and stuff. Oh, but they were there. They were giving good messages to the kids. No, they weren't. They were consume, 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 consume. And I'm not saying that cable or anything is perfect or what we have now is perfect. It's not even close. But it gave an alternative and it let people see what they actually wanted to see. People don't want this kiddie stuff. They really don't. I mean, the only reason they do is nostalgia, and nostalgia to me is useless. Nostalgia is just saying, I like this because I watched this with this person and had this effect on me on this time. But now, as a grown adult, it's complete garbage. And if I looked at it objectively instead of through the lens of, it's great because of, no, it's great because you spend it with that person or whatever that case is. It's not great due to what it was. So, yeah, that's really all there is to it.